Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Find a Way podcast with Dusty. Hopefully, you're doing well on your journey. This particular episode, as I drive past the St. Louis Arch, I'm in St. Louis this weekend. My wife's sister is 8 months pregnant, and we're trying to get out to St. Louis to see her as much as possible. My wife and her sister are very close, and so having her live in a different city kind of puts us in a position where we need to visit as much as we can, and it looks like in the next couple of months we'll be doing that a whole bunch as she gives birth and everything. But it's cool. The driving on the freeway right next to the arch, and did the half marathon pacing for it. It's so cool how it transforms a city for you almost when you get to run and pace. A particular bigger run, like the one here in St. Louis, it ran by the arch, it ran by a lot of the historical neighborhoods, and so I got a chance to really see this city because I'm pacing at a pace that I'm comfortable with, and so I'm settling back a little bit, just looking around and just kind of taking everything in. So kind of cool that I'm passing that, kind of get to see where my pace of the half marathon is. And I'm actually driving now. As you know, we do the Find a Way podcast episodes when we're driving because we're finding a way to do a podcast in the midst of this crazy life. But this podcast is actually something to do with something I noticed recently that I think is really important for the journey, something I'm noticing in mine. And now that I'm 8 years into this journey, 8 to 9 years into this journey of losing the weight, keeping it off, and going through the ups and downs of, weight loss, weight gain, stress, emotions. And so recently I have weighed myself because I am close to 4 months out of loose skin surgery. And what I wanted to do is really look at how my weight is doing. Okay, they took 12 pounds of skin, so I'm just going to immediately be 12 pounds less when I step on the scale. And actually, I was the same exact weight. And so, what? I weighed myself before, you took 12 pounds of skin, weighed myself after, and I'm definitely the same weight. What? So, obviously, the swelling and the water retention from surgery is definitely playing a factor. But that put me into a position to say, okay, where am I at now? And where was I in 2018, 2019? What's the progress? And so overall, since the lowest I've ever been, my Fit Index says I have gained 12 pounds of muscle and 8 pounds of fat. So I've gained 20 pounds. Now, say if you didn't have a Fit Index scale or a scale in general and you were working out and doing all this, think about the mental toll that it would take when all of a sudden you hear, man, I've gained 20 pounds. I've been working out, I've been doing all this, but what? Imagine how mentally taxing that would be. But with the proper scale, I know that I've gained 12 pounds of muscle, which is good. It's good to gain muscle. That's muscle that I'm going to hold on to. It's going to help me move, and muscle's good. Now, the 8 pounds of fat that came with it, there's no question whatsoever that the vice that got me to 534 pounds, which was stress. I'm a stress eater. When I'm stressed, I cope with food. And there's been a lot of rewiring. There's been a lot of mourning, a lot of death to the old me. But for 33 years, I'm doing something a particular way. Habits and tendencies don't just die and all of a sudden you don't remember. It's almost like someone who's got an alcohol or drug addiction. It's not like the abstinence or you're clean for this amount. It doesn't mean you don't remember. You don't have thoughts and don't have memories of that time. You absolutely do. And it's easy to get back into those. And so I think for me, the 8 pounds of fats in the past, say, 4 years is understandable. And I looked at my Fit Index scale, and it gives me trends. And it started 2 months before I had my daughter. And that was honestly a pound. And it weighs itself. It shows itself in a graph. 1 to 2 pounds. I gained again, like the next major influx was 3 months before my son was born. So interesting. Now my son's the pregnancy during with my son, we had a lot more concerns, a lot of issues. Right in the middle of our daughter being born 2 months prior, we were still in the middle of COVID. We were like, can I even be in the room? Can I even be there? Like, all of that was a factor. With our son, there was just a lot of factors that we had a concern with during the pregnancy itself. And so stress, which I've talked about on this podcast before, in an area that isn't directly associated with yourself, but someone that you love and someone that you're connected to, it's like, well, I haven't competed with that before. I have habits and tendencies that got me to 534 pounds, and I have mourned and I have learned a new way of doing things. But now there's new level, new devil? Like, what? Like, I'm not, no. Come on, I've been doing this for, 4 years in, 5 years in, maintaining, doing great, and all of a sudden a whole new form of stress is coming that I'm just not prepared for. And so I noticed that influx. And for me, I know that I'm not going to so strictly focus on the number on the scale right now because I'm still very swollen. It's interesting. I did the red light therapy machine at Planet Fitness, and it actually showed like the tint of my skin in certain areas where I'm actually still numbish and still bruised. 4 months later, still bruised? Yeah, like that's wild. But I'm still very much bruised, still very much swollen, likely holding a lot of water. There's areas where it's like, man, my legs, my obliques have never looked like that. And it literally feels like there is just swelling and just this like water retention. And so I can't really focus, but there's going to come a time when the swelling is going to die down. And that's likely about 8 months. I'm going to see the full kind of experience of the results a year in. But, I mean, in between that, I'm hopefully going to have my skin surgery for my chest. And so I'm going to go right back in to another surgery, another swelling. So really, I'm probably now looking at a year from now. If I have the surgery for my chest in January, probably not looking until another year from now until I'm really going to see what I'm going to be settling or sitting at. And so that's where my focus is going to be when I get there is, okay, I want to get back to where I was. I guess to build muscle, I like to build lean muscle, but I've always liked the more aesthetic look rather than being big. Like, I have no desire to lift heavy. I am not trying to pound my chest in front of anybody about my lifting ability. I would like to really talk about my endurance and really have that be a like, wow, like you push through during that, where common people get, tired or exhausted, you're able to push through. I'm really more of an endurance. I like that endurance, markers rather than strength. So I'm not going to get big, and I have no desire to that. I think right around 2019, I had the aesthetic where I was able to lift decently, but I was also able to do box jumps and be agile and run and do a lot of stuff like that. So that's more or less where I want to be, and it's something that I'm going to have to work towards. But what's so interesting about this, having the mindset now of wanting to get back to a place and spending my whole life kind of being in that 30 plus years mindset of wanting to get to a particular place, At times it can get very frustrating and overwhelming. It almost feels very defeating, like I went through all this work just to go through it again. And that's where I've really got to combat my thoughts of celebrating how far I've come, but also there are factors in play that I just couldn't have prepared for. And, your particular journey, there may be factors that you're just not prepared for, and you're just going to have to adjust and make adjustments for it. It's not going to be a week later you're going to make a discovery. There's going to be at times months that are going to go by that you're not going to be able to really see, okay, what's happened and what do I need to do to move forward. It's all a part of the journey. It's all a part of the back and forth of taking care of your health. And this is where, oh man, that sounds exhausting, but it's an investment into your health. Not dying early. It's like, oh, that's a fear tactic. I'm not like, this isn't a fear tactic. It's realistic to say that you are going to live less longer. You're not going to live as long if you are struggling with your weight. Like my 6 months to live that my doctor gave me at 534 pounds was pretty accurate because I could start seeing the window close. I could start seeing the room getting pretty dark around me. And maybe that's why I have such a passion to be a light and be kind of this lighthouse of, hey, it's going to be okay. It's because I could see the room darkening. I could see things getting dim, and it was almost like I was almost at a point where I was done fighting. Like, I'm done going through this exhaustive another attempt to lose X amount of weight, to just it not being sustainable, and if it happens, it happens. Like, things are getting very dark. And so that's where you'll notice I'm always there's critiques of how individuals do it. And it's like, if someone makes a personal decision, that's a personal decision. And if they've consulted and have done all the checks and balances that they need to, it doesn't matter how you think and how they should have done things. That doesn't matter. Getting the weight off is so much more important because it is life-threatening. You have a threat of life, especially when you have excessive weight around your organs, when your heart is beating much faster, doing a bunch more work because of the excessive weight. There's just so many factors that just play into the fact that you've got to get to a weight that allows you to not only be active and be present with your kids, with your family, with your spouse, but also to be able to not be, that you don't have to lean upon somebody because of your weight as you get older, that you're able to be flexible and movable and agile. My dad being 66, going for runs on every weekend, he knows his back. He knows the problems he has with it. He knows particular things that he eats or drinks affect him, and he is very, very conscious of his triggers. So he can actually tell you, hey, if I have this, I'm going to feel like this. And it's spot on every time. He knows his body, and he's continuing to thrive and live longer, especially when he's 66, just because he's got to focus on who he is and what works for him. And so the method in someone getting to their appropriate weight is their personal decision. But it's so important to prioritize that, because just think about the burden of your passing to be on others that have to experience it, that are still around and still alive. You want to be able to live longer. And yes, it's tedious. Yes, it's a lot of work, but it's an investment. You're pinching, a lot of retirement folks that do really well, are successful, are very happy, are ones that invested when they were young, invested when they were early. They did an investment. They sacrificed when they were younger so that they could thrive when they were older. It's the same thing that applies to weight loss. Like, oh, this is tedious. Oh, it's a lot of work. Yeah, it's the sacrifice now that you can reap the benefits later. Sure, you can splurge now. Sure, you can overeat, do whatever you want now, but you're going to be in a tough spot when you get older. And it's just making that responsible decision with your health. Are there people that still will make the wrong decision? Absolutely. Just like financially, some will still make the wrong decision. Honestly, a lot of not mismatched. A lot of financial literacy is what determines someone's ability to be successful financially, what you can do in business, taxes, all that good stuff. Ignorance, the stuff that you don't know, ends up getting in the way of being able to let you thrive. It's the same thing to do with weight loss. It's the ignorance on what works, what doesn't, the priority on protein and fiber, minimizing added sugars, knowing what your number is. All those factors play into being successful, but there's so many of us that are ignorant to what it really takes that we will go and just take a keto or a carnivore or we'll go to weight loss. We'll do all these things that will end up resulting in a lack of success because there's just no fundamental education or understanding of what it's going to take to lose it, but also keep it off. And so that's where the investment comes in. And so for me, sure, it's discouraging that, like, you know, hey, 12 pounds of muscle, that's encouraging. But 8 pounds of fat, it's like, okay, I need to gain some fat, so I need to be, excuse me, I need to be cautious and mindful of those things. I've got a huge truck in front of me with a bunch of glass, and that thing hits the wrong pothole, it's going to be not good for me. So I'm changing lanes. There we go. But, yeah, it's a little discouraging, can be, but it's all right. We'll keep running, keep working out, keep prioritizing protein and fiber, and we'll minimize our stressors as my kids get older. No, the stress from kids comes in different waves. Comes in interesting waves. Like, oh, I have a 3-nager now. Okay, that's a different kind of stress. Oh, I have my son who's 18 months and is just learning how to be a terror in public. Ah! What are you screaming for? Because I just want to scream. So we are going to continue to monitor the stress that take place, and we're going to continue to make shifts. But that's what we do. We're doing this podcast because we're on the journey. I'm on the journey as well. I'm doing this podcast because I am on this journey as well. So if you're listening, you're just on the journey. Cool. What was that? Can you hear that? I'm almost to my destination. So I will conclude this particular episode. I will post this one right now if I get time to stop and all that. I will post this right now. Hopefully you're all doing well on this Saturday. If you're listening to this not on Saturday, hopefully whatever day you're listening to this, it's pretty awesome. So, anyways, that's it. That's all. Find a way, my friends. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Bye.